Hello, everyone, and welcome. The SGPN Fantasy Football Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is presented by WynnBET. WynnBET is now live in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Tennessee, and Virginia. From boosted same-game parlays to live in-game odds, WynnBET has what you need to win. Sign up today, bet $100, and get a $100 free bet at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WynnBET. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WYNNBET. We're also brought to you by SGPN World Cup Free Roll. $250 cash and a $250 gift card to the winner. Enter today exclusively on the SGPN app. How we doing, my man? Thank you for joining me today. How's your day going so far?
Oh, it's going good. I'm on the West Coast, so it just started. So, I got plenty of day to go today.
I'm in Mountain Time, so I'm just getting going here as well. Like everyone, I feel like everyone we talk to is an East Coaster, so you know what I mean. So we're always operating. They're just like, oh yeah, you good for that 10 a.m., 11 a.m. Broadcast? You're like, I guess I'll get up. I'm a bartender as well, so it was a late night for me last night. So my brains, I feel like running a little slow today, but we'll make it.
We will. I mean, it's what we do on the West Coast. Apparently, like I said, like you said just right now, everybody's on the East. And I'm starting shows at like 9.
Yeah, we need some more West Coast people out here. But thank you for joining me, Davis. It's great to have you on. We're going to talk some Underdog today. But yeah, man, it's been a crazy week, man. These injuries are nuts. Like Cooper Kupp on IR, Dallas Goedert on IR, McCole Hardman just went on IR. It's some tough breaks for me. We were just talking about before the show that a lot of people's Underdog team best ball teams died this week, unfortunately.
It died, especially with Cooper Kupp. That's a huge one. Because you can get by, losing maybe Marquise Brown or something. But like Cooper Kupp was a free 15 to 22 points in half PPR every week. And I don't know how you replace that with Nico Collins and Paris Campbell with your bottom 2 picks.
Man, I mean I mean Paris Campbell's, he's had a hell of a couple weeks, but yes, there's a lot of people who spent the 1-1 on Cooper Kupp. So it's just like, well, yeah, what are you going to do? You know what I mean? I know Justin Jefferson kind of slid ahead of him on the end of the summer there, but for the bulk of the summer, it was Cooper Kupp going in that 1-1, 1-2 in draft. So I do feel for those people.
Cooper Kupp plus Chase are all gone. I mean, the only wide receiver that was drafted in the first that's still alive is technically just Justin Jefferson and some digs.
Dig. Yeah, Devontae Adams was getting in there in the late, depending on the draft. So, you have some of those guys. But yes, the zero running back guy, some of those zero running back guys aren't laughing so hard now. You know what I mean? So, yeah, some of those Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, even in the later summer, looking pretty good. Just before we dive in, I have one best ball team. I'm pretty excited. Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, and Alvin Kamara all on the same team. I'm hoping going running back heavy can get me a unique lineup there, but I got Saquon Barkley in the 3rd round in a Best Ball Mania draft here about July, so I'm hoping.
Those dude, Saquon had the craziest value early on. Open on BBM1, BBM 3 at the beginning. You're talking 3rd round, 2nd round for a good portion, and that's it. Nick Chubb. There's teams right now that have like CMC, like Saquon, Nick Chubb, and I'm just like, well, I lost. Like, yeah. I hope you drafted like. Every broken receiver in Allen Robinson right now. I hope you have those guys because there's no way you're going to beat that.
That's the one thing. Yes, if I did Nick Chubb instead of Alvin Kamara, I'd be in great shape right now. But alas, you have any favorite teams right now that are looking good?
Rip, we're gonna fun fact though. Alvin Kamara has actually been a best ball champion before. That's how the first BBM1 was won. They won through Alvin Kamara being the only Alvin Kamara left in the best ball.
Oh man! And then was that when he scored like 5 touchdowns in championship week? Oh, yep. I bet. Oh my gosh!
It was Alvin Kamara. KJ Hamler was a difference maker.
That wasn't even stressful.
Yeah, that person you never know. You could be that guy that has that random Alvin Kamara that takes off.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I'm jealous. I'm hoping I didn't do a ton of best ball. I only did like 14 best ball. I mainly maxed out on puppies and Pomeranian. Next year, I'm going to get big into the best ball mania. I was trying to be a little more, I was trying to dabble into Underdog, and I was getting a little more conservative with it. But next year, going crazy with it. But it's great to have you on. You know what? Actually, first today, Underdog actually released a new, brand new, they did it last year, but, they're just starting it for this year. Too early wild card best ball. Oh, yeah. So, it's 5,616 entries, 150 max, $10 per entry. 6-person drafts. It's got a $10,000 grand prize. These Best Ball Mania drafts are not Best Ball Mania drafts. The 2 early wildcard drafts have 10 roster spots, 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 2 wide receiver / tight end. So tight end is not a mandatory position. 1 flex and 5 bench, half PPR. Yes, I've been dabbling this week. These are super interesting drafts because you're playing through each round of the playoffs here. So we're looking for we're looking for guys going to the Super Bowl, in my opinion. Have you? I know you said we haven't done too many of these yet, but do you have any just like overarching strategies that you'll be looking for? Because I know you've seen these before.
Oh man, I mean, you said the biggest thing right there. It was all about getting to the Super Bowl. Like, if your team gets to the Super Bowl, sure, you could draft that same team, AFC and NFC, over and over. But your goal isn't to have the most points. I got to get these guys that are going to help me win it through. You do need some, right? Let's say Miami, you have to figure out who can get to the divisions, the conferences, and who needs to get to the Super Bowl. Because without the Super Bowl matchup, it doesn't matter. Even if it's the worst players, let's say in some way the Jets make Super Bowl, right? And it's just this really, really bad team that's out there, but you still need them because otherwise you're not going to make any of the money. So you need to predict what's going to get far, what's going to get to the end, and that's all that really matters. Because the guy who won it last year, he won with just like 3 players, I think 3 or 4 at the end of it.
Really?
So the team whittled down. Yeah, I mean, you have to. The team whittles down the road because you're not going to have all of everything. You're going to have whatever's left over.
Interesting, because I've been trying to focus on really trying to carry 5 or 6 guys. I want 6 players in that Super Bowl matchup. So, I've been really trying to I've been trying to just to draft 2 or 3 teams, really maybe 4, like if I just got on 1 player or something like that, but really just trying to focus on matchups. I see guys getting to the Super Bowl. So, drafting a lot of Vikings, Chiefs, or Vikings, Bills, trying to focus, Miami, Philadelphia, trying to get a lot of these teams, getting 2 or 3 guys from each of these teams so I can have some guys in the Super Bowl. I'm really avoiding players that I don't like. Derrick Henry is going early. I know the Titans, they're looking good. Hey, the Titans are a solid team. They are so well coached. They're performing, way outperforming expectations, but I'm not interested in Derrick Henry as a top end running back when I don't think he's going to be advancing very far in the playoffs. What do you think about that?
No, I agree. I mean, we've seen the Titans do this over and over again, right? Win division, and then just get knocked out in wild card or get knocked out by the Chiefs. That's their MO right now. We play the Chiefs, we lose to the Chiefs every year. So
you're a Titans fan,
huh?
You're a Titans fan.
No, I'm a Dolphins fan. So I don't know what Dolphins look like. I'm a fan of Tannehill though, so I always root for him to have success, and he had some last night, and I had some since he left us, and I'm happy for him.
Yeah, they play great. They're a tough team. I just can't believe Mike Vrabel, has them in the thick of the playoff hunt this year. Ryan Tannehill's throwing, to Treylon Burks and no one else. So it's really surprising.
Yeah, so I see you're right though. I wouldn't take any Derrick Henry right now. I mean, I know that most of the roster is going to play. Your goal is to have the most of the roster playing in this Super Bowl, but I think the odds of that happening are really tough. And then you do get enough players that you can whittle into it. So I think the strategy of taking to AFC, NFC, the finals is the best move. You got to sprinkle in some heavy hitters, I think, though. Can help out a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm saving those for the back end. If I can get, Treylon Burks, somebody's going to get eliminated early, kind of in those later rounds, to try to booster me up, get me in those later playoff rounds. That's where I'm focusing on those guys. But I'm really trying to stick to those 2 or 3 different teams, try to make my Super Bowl matchups. If I get a Viking and a Chief early, I'm really going to try to get 2 or 3 of those guys because that's the Super Bowl matchup that I'm going to predict with my team because we're going for high end outcomes here. So I just feel like if a lot of these guys, a lot of the other teams I see drafted, they're getting players from 6 or 7 different teams, and that's just not going to play at the end when most of those teams are eliminated, right?
It's a DFS, so you have to do stacks. You need your stacks. You need reason. I would say top to bottom, Super Bowl, conferences. If a team could even get in those, that's it. I wouldn't touch any team I didn't believe was going to get to conference.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly how I'm doing.
What's the wildcard going to do for you? Oh man, Daniel Jones has 40 yards and loses. This is great. Doesn't help me. 40 points and loses doesn't do me any good.
Yeah, exactly. You'll just have them for that 1 week, and that's not where the big money's won. So you're shooting for high end outcomes here. So the big important thing is how you stick between 2 or 3 different teams, and the Vikings, Eagles, Chiefs, and Bills, and the Dolphins to a certain extent. Those are the guys. Those are the teams that I want to focus on. Maybe the Bengals too. A lot of those teams are teams that I'm giving premium value to those players because I think that they have a chance to go deep in the playoffs. Chiefs and Bills, really slamming them. Yeah, Vikings, Eagles, yeah, those particularly I think are some. You want to give a lot of value to those players because I think those are the lot. Likely you're getting the Super Bowl teams among those.
I can't believe someone's rooting for the Vikings on this, man. The Vikings have always found a way to disappoint. They always do. And here's the thing, I love the Vikings. I do. I've betted on them in the past. I've taken props for them, and they always find a way to remind NFL fans that they're the Vikings. They're one kick away somewhere of losing, or and it's sad because I feel for them. As a Dolphins fan that's had Tom Brady run amok on us, I understand a Vikings fan that has Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre running amok on them. Okay, so I hope they get it, but I'm taking some Eagles. I think I'm taking Eagles. I'll probably take some Vikings, and maybe even for a long shot bet, take some guys at NFC West. NFC West went really all in with the 49ers, and it wouldn't surprise me if the 49ers found their way back.
That was the team I was forgetting. I knew I was forgetting a team. That was the one.
I mean, even the Seahawks, man. Like you could sit there and say anything about any of these teams that they're not as good as these other two, but we just watched a couple of years ago Nick Foles come in and win a Super Bowl. So imagine if someone took any Eagles, because there's no way that year when someone would take any Eagles to go further than wild card or the first playoff match, right? No one's taking them for conference. No one's taking them for Super Bowl champions. Besides Eagle fans.
Besides Eagles fans, right? Yeah, I mean, there's some value to be had there. And the 49ers are one that I forgot to say that I've been getting, I've been doing some stacks with. I've been getting some, you're getting some good value there, but just because their record's not right up there with the Eagles or Vikings right now. So I think that's another good one as well.
I mean, I would be betting on some 49ers. I'm not a Niners fan by any means, but Brandon Ayuk, CMC, Deebo Samuel, I feel like the trickery gets really crazy in playoffs, right? Like the trick plays come out, the wheelhouse opens. Like I would take some Deebo. I mean, he's had a crummy regular season, but would it surprise you if Deebo did, rushing touchdowns and some trick plays that could have broken some slates in the playoffs?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you're going to get some he's going to have some big games down there. And I think Deebo is actually somebody, I think when we get into some value players, it's somebody I had written down, and I have actually, one of the first player I had written down here, going over to the Seattle, talking about the NFC West is, Geno Smith is the quarterback 12 in this. And yeah, I think that's pretty good value. The Seahawks are playing really good ball right now.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I think there's just a lot to unpack here still. I think
there's so much.
Only division I think I'm completely out on is the NFC South, but you never know. I mean, Tom Brady could have this, Cinderella story the same way Peyton Manning did on his final year.
That's what I mean. I think the Bucks are some value play. I have some Bucks as some value players just because, that division is so bad that the Bucks are going to end up getting into the playoffs, and so their value is pretty depressed right now. What's funny is I actually had Aaron Rodgers as a value pick before last. I had written down my notes here. I had Aaron Rodgers as a value pick because I thought he'd win last night, and I thought they still could get in the playoffs. I think that's over now. He was the quarterback 23, and I just thought, oh man, but it's Aaron Rodgers. But man, I think that's over. The Packers are not going to make the playoffs, I don't think anymore. So that's
I think they're completely out.
Yeah, it's 7 losses already. That's tough to project them. They'd have to win every game and then probably get some help from there. So I think that's out. I also have Joe Burrow written down here, quarterback 9. He has quarterback 1 7 of 9 games this year. We saw that the Bengals went on a run last year in the playoffs. What do you think about that?
I think so. Actually, it's really entails to what I do for best ball. I know for a while people gave a lot of crap to Tua, Carson Wentz, Daniel Jones, right? And Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins gets a lot of crap too. And I say this every time for guys like them. It's, do you see them with the weapons they have, able to throw 3 touchdowns?
Joe Burrow, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for Joe Burrow, Tua, Patrick Mahomes with Juju and whatever the heck he has right now, Kirk Cousins with Justin Jefferson, Thielen, Hawkinson, KJ Osborne coming into the season. Like, Yes, I could see this guy throwing 3 touchdowns randomly, right? So if I look at Joe Burrow, I just go, yeah, I see him throwing 3 touchdowns. And that alone, most of the time, is better than most stats, right? Short of a guy running 200 yards like Justin Fields. But against average NFL, a guy throws 3 touchdowns, that's almost a week winner. Because the person who throws 2 is just never going to beat you unless we throw away more picks or we fumble a lot. And to top it off, Joe Burrow's a yardage guy. So he's never getting 3 touchdowns and 240 yards. He's not efficient. He's a slinger. So you're getting 300, 3 touchdowns and 340 yards, 320 yards. Mm-hmm. And that will give you the edge. And if you're saying he's a value buy because he's definitely probably at the bottom, I would take him all day. Like I a healthy Jamar Chase, hobbled healthy Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, the trio. I know most franchises would kill to have a trio like that.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I can't I'm a Chiefs fan. I'm a little spoiled, but man, I can't. I just want one of these guys for Patrick Mahomes. Like just Juju Smith-Schuster is been performing fantastic. Travis Kelce is Travis Kelce. Man, that one of those Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins guys in that late first round that just hit. That's what I want for my Chiefs soon. But man, with the way that wide receiver contracts are going, I think it's a trend that we see going forward. I think we see those wide receivers get bumped up quite a bit. Into that first round, early first round, all those top wide receivers. So I don't think we'll see as many of those value picks going forward. One other note I had here is that the Bengals have gone from 17 last year to pass plays per game to 8 this year. So we're seeing a lot more passing from the Bengals this year. Joe Burrow having a lot more of those high-end outcomes with a lot more volume. So I had some avoids written down here as well. Justin Herbert, quarterback 12. I just don't think it's their year. I just don't think that they're going to advance very far in the playoffs. Deshaun Watson, I don't think Cleveland is making the playoffs. He's the quarterback 13. That doesn't make much sense to me. Matthew Stafford at quarterback 17. Again, I don't believe the Rams are going to make the playoffs. And Justin Fields, quarterback 19. All those reasons, just guys I just don't see making the playoffs. And I just don't think you should waste any of your time picking them.
Yeah, those are just dead picks, right? They don't make the playoffs. That means they don't contribute points. It's done. If they make the playoffs and don't make it far, then they contribute little points. It's just a waste of your time.
Yeah, and this is why you're getting a lot of just by putting some thought process into these drafts. You're gaining a big advantage. These guys are all players who are going within drafted ADP. So if you're sticking present in your drafts, don't let yourself get auto drafted. I'm bad about that sometimes. It's so easy to do an underdog draft that you get busy doing something else, you forget a pick. Here you don't want to do that because you will get stuck on likely a guy who might not make the playoffs probably. So
if you're autopiloting, that's what we call when we start drafting too many teams. You start to autopilot. You're going there. You're like, well, this is where I would normally get this guy. This is where I normally pick up CeeDee Lamb. This is where I normally do this. Mm-hmm. And then your team looks like everybody else's team because everybody else is doing the same thing. You gotta get weird with it. Like I started Darius Slayton last year because I thought it'd be hilarious against Troy King. You got to do something a little bit different. They projected it for like 1.8 points, and I was like, I know he's going to do more than that. It's Darius Slayton. He's a guy that catch 3, and that's all I need. Catch 3 for 100 yards.
Absolutely, yeah. You got to get a little different, and like I said, just putting some thought process into these drafts, I think is really going to help. On the running back position here, Dalvin Cook RB4. I think he's a little bit coming into his own. He's been a top 14 running back in his last 6 or 7 games. So, it seemed like it was a little bit disappointing to start the year, but Dalvin Cook's coming into his own a little bit.
He's been an interesting player. I did a sell high on him a couple weeks ago, and I will admit it was a bad sell high. But he had some of the weirdest touchdowns, right? Like the game where Justin Jefferson falls into the 1 yard line twice, and then Dalvin Cook just happens to run it in. It's like he has 2 touchdowns. He has a great week, and he gets 60 yards off of like 20 touches. I was like, that's not a good week on real life football. But for fantasy, it will be because you fell to the end zone 2 times, and that's all it takes. And I feel like Dalvin Cook has continuously done that, where you'll have like a big run and then like 19 terrible runs, and it's like, oh, that big run, I think he did last week. It was like 90 yards for a touchdown or something, or 80 yards at a touchdown. But every other run he did before that was just terrible.
It's been a weird year for running backs. Like, I remember people were dancing on the running back graves, like in the first 5 weeks of the season, it was just like, hey, yeah, running back's dead. You know what I mean? And then, it seems like we've gotten a little bit more back to normal. Austin Eckler, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley. These guys are having a significant impact. Dalvin Cook's entering that conversation as well. Another guy, I must be on the Bengals just because I think they're a good team and have a shot at going far in the playoffs. They're kind of one of those outsider picks. Joe Mixon's the RB9. And he's received, I know we were talking about the increased pass speed, but he still has 20 plus opportunities in 6 of 9 games this year.
Yeah. I mean, they haven't been efficient, and that's fine, but he's getting them. And that's an opportunity is king. And as much as I just crapped on Dalvin Cook a second ago, I have to say the same thing for Joe Mixon, right? Like, you could have 19 terrible touches, but as long as you get that one big one, 30 yards of receiving, 5 catches, that's points. And that usually is enough to get you by. And if you think Joe Mixon gets to the Super Bowl again, I couldn't see why not. Like, Super Bowl, you're like, I don't see why not drafting him. Because that's what's, RB9, that's super late for a team that has a shot at the playoffs, that has a team to get further down. I mean, it's almost, as like I said, a lot of these are kind of no-brainers. And it says it in the beginning of the title. It's way too early wild card, way too early. So you're drafting in hopes that you can outsmart or get lucky with your competition.
Yeah. That's some great advice. We just had Andrew Robb join, and he's, we used to do these Underdog pods together, and he's going to be dropping an Underdog Battle Royale article tomorrow. Give that a check out on SGPN. So good to have you in, Andrew. The last name I had here was Jerick McKinnon from my Chiefs. RB21, and 5 of 9 games he's been. Different notes there. 4 game potential, 8 targets and 2+ games this year. And I just like him as a guy who is an RB21 who can give me 4 games. Go into the Super Bowl, another player in there. I like him there.
I mean, for uniqueness purpose, I could see it. He does catch a lot of receptions. I think all he did was catch the receptions last week, right? It was like,
yeah.
I think the touchdowns are probably what's going to kill him. He had a couple in the beginning, saved me on some of my best ball teams, because I took a lot of McKinnon in the last round, like the last 2 rounds, and he's been saving himself, putting contribution points up. It does scare me that if he keeps going, but I'll have to check down the road if I actually think he will. I would rather, I think, grab someone like Raheem Mostert or something. But that's if I believe the Dolphins go further. I think they would probably be more interesting. Or maybe grab Isaiah Pacheco, who's going a little bit ahead of him. I think he's like RB16 right now in the Battle Royale. I want something I think that will have the actual role, because there's so much splitting at this point that does a split situation still equivalent top fantasy points? And I feel like it's going to be tough. So at that point, you're banking for these guys to make Super Bowl, which, to be fair, the Chiefs have done it. So multiple times.
Yeah, I just think there's a great chance for him to make the Super Bowl. And I think, I don't think McKinnon's going to have, he's not going to have a great game every game in the playoffs. That's not going to happen. But I think you can get a game or 2 out of him in the playoffs where he has a spike couple game or 2 if he can get in the end zone. So I think there's some opportunity there. Just some quick avoids that I had for the running back position. Clyde Edwards-Helaire at the RB11. I mean, the guy got 4 snaps, not even an opportunity last week. Derrick Henry at the RB3. I just don't think there's a lot of room. The Titans have been playing great this year, but I just don't think there's more than a 1 game. More than likely you're only getting 1 game out of Derrick Henry there. And I also had Nick Chubb as the RB18, just somebody who's not going to make the playoffs.
No, that's 100% fair. I also think one that I'm a little worried about is Miles Sanders right now. He's RB2. I think that one just doesn't make any sense to me, because even if they make it far, like, what has Miles Sanders realistically done on a game per game basis, right? Like, last week he would have disappointed you. Jalen Hurts rushes it in. Kenneth Gainwell catches the ball. Boston Scott goes in. Like, has Miles Sanders had a multiple touchdown game this season?
Does Miles Sanders have a multiple touchdown game this season? Let's look that up really quick. Sleeper just lets me pull these stats up so fast.
Yeah, but I'm just I don't remember if he does. I remember games where they all got a touchdown, where all 4 of them.
1.
Yeah, 1.
Right? 1 in week 4.
Yeah, so he has 1 over 10 weeks. Well, 9 if you count his bye. So it's not reliable to me. I would rather take a shot on. We know the Eagles will make the playoffs. We know the Eagles will make a run for it. But I'd rather have Gainwell, who's going way later than Sanders. Yeah, if I think the Eagles make the Super Bowl, I would rather have Gainwell than I have Sanders, because I could draft, hopefully, the AFC running back and then have if I had to grab them, I would have their running back that I think might just do a little bit more. I don't know. It just seems off to me because Sanders hasn't been used at all. I mean, he wasn't used last week either. I think he had 4 touches for 26 yards or something like that. Something terrible.
I have Miles Sanders 12 rushes for 54 yards last week.
Oh yeah, he got it towards the end. He had it towards the end.
Yeah.
But it was really, really bad because he didn't hit my prop bet at all. Like not even close. He was over he had prop at 76.
Yeah, I mean, it's been kind of middling performance. You know, he before this he had 14 points, 13 points, 15 points. You know, just kind of standard. You know, solid but not spectacular numbers. So there's certainly room for another running back to gain some traction in the offense.
I mean, I'm RB2 though. That's crazy. I would take a shot at anybody else.
Yep, I agree. That is a little high for me too. You know, I have the Smokey the cat here popping in. He's just asking us a quick question. I think just a quick start and sit question here. What's up, guys? Who are we flexing? Pacheco, Gus Edwards, or Elijah Mitchell? You know, for this week, I'm just trying to think of the matchups here. Man, it would be Elijah Mitchell or Pacheco for me. Man, Elijah Mitchell, I think, is the safer bet. I think if you just want 8 or 9 points, I think Elijah Mitchell is more close to get that for you. But if you're looking for upside, if you need 15 or 20 points, if you go down or you're projected to lose your matchup by a lot, I would consider Pacheco.
I'm probably going to go Elijah Mitchell. I mean, they used him well enough. He got a ton of run in for a guy that returned. I don't see the same for Gus Edwards, who returned. Kenyon Drake is actually performing, which is annoying for me because I have a lot of Gus Edwards. And they split it really well. And you know, like, and I was telling some of this earlier on the other shows, like, hey, I get it. We want CMC to have 35 touches. We want CMC to catch 10 balls, throw another touchdown. But let's be real here. Like, this is real football versus fantasy. So we have to play around real rules. So we have to assume they want to rest the guy they just gave the house up for a little bit. You know, you have to give it a little bit. And they know they don't trust Jimmy G to really sling the ball more than 25 to 30 times. So give me Elijah Mitchell. I think his touches matter a lot. They did really well last week. And they're going against the Cardinals, which I think is like a bottom level defense on both ends. Wait, yeah, they're going against the Cardinals this week. Yeah, they're going against the Cardinals. They're a bottom end defense on kind of both ends right now, and they have Colt McCoy. I can see this game trying to be chugged out pretty fast. You got Monday too, so we'll get more rest for all these guys also.
Yeah, Elijah Mitchell, he's going to be a part of that offense, to the detriment of CMC. I've been talking about Pacheco a lot this week, though. I just think that there's not a starting running back who's just sitting on the waiver wire right now like Pacheco is in a lot of leagues. I know it hasn't translated to fantasy points last week, but he is very, when you watch those games, he is explosive. He has an element of that game that McKinnon and CH don't simply have. McKinnon's very fast, but he doesn't have that power that Pacheco has. So I think, just you're talking about a guy with some potential down as we're getting to these colder months and the Chiefs are going to have to throw a bit more. I definitely want to keep Pacheco stashed on my bench. Maybe not this week yet, but I think he could have some big weeks coming up. I'll go over these names, just list these stuff for you. Tell me some of your favorite ones just so we can get into the Battle Royale here. But for the wide receivers, I had T. Higgins, wide receiver, tight end, 23. I say wide receiver, tight end because, again, there's no tight end position. So they're ranked together, the tight end and wide receivers. So T. Higgins, he's the wide receiver, tight end, 23. I had McCole Hardman. I had him written down here as the wide receiver, tight end, 29. He'll be back by the playoffs. That I might not take him quite there anymore because I think Kadarius Toney is going to get his opportunity to kind of take over in this offense. But I still think Hardman does have some value. That's going to dip past even 29 now. You're going to get him deep into the 30s, probably one of your last round picks. I would consider McCole Hardman because he can get you a big game in there. TJ Hawkinson, wide receiver, tight end /24, just guys, with 3 to 4 game potential again, and he has 19 targets in his last 2 games. Cooper Kupp, obvious wide receiver, 22 when I was doing these yesterday. That's an easy avoid. DeAndre Hopkins, wide receiver, I haven't been written down as a wide receiver. That can't be right. Wide receiver 3, man. If that's actually right, and I just man, goodness, that's way too.
No. He's way down there. He's wide receiver 31. I think he.
I was missing my 1. Okay, perfect. I was just like, wide receiver. What? I was just like, but yeah, again, guy avoid. Just because yes, that he's not going to make the playoffs. And then yeah, those were my major avoids there. So yeah, this is just a super interesting format. Excited to get on. So yeah, just take advantage and don't get these guys who are just going to be right out of the playoffs immediately, or guys who are not even going to make the playoffs. So just make your smart decisions. Shoot for some guys who are going to go deep into the playoffs. With that, we will get into the Battle Royale. But first, we're just going to pay this last round of bills really quick. Ready to win money and boost your odds? WynnBET is now live in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Tennessee, and Virginia. We're bringing the excitement of Wynn Las Vegas to online sports betting and casino play. Exclusive rewards and rights are at your fingertips with Wynn Rewards on WynnBET. Be on the lookout for WynnBET Win Hour each Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. During WynnBET Win Hour, marquee games of the week will have better odds on WynnBET, giving you a larger payout opportunity. Great promos, odds, and payouts are happening right now at WynnBET. From boosted same-game parlays to live in-game odds on every major sport, WynnBET has what you need to win. Ready to play? Sign up today and receive a special offer. Bet $100, win $100. There's so much to choose from. All you have to do is head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WynnBET so that we know we sent you. Offer subject to change. Terms and conditions at wynnbet.com. Must be 21 or older and present in the state where playthrough WynnBET is available. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. All right, and with that, we will dive into this week's Battle Royale slate. This is the main topic of what I usually get into every single week. So usually I start off with just starting off with some of my favorite games to target here as I flip through my notes and try to find them here. Yeah, the first one I had up here is the obvious one of the week, it's obvious now. It sounds like a horrible matchup, but it's the popular one here. Bears versus Falcons. It's going to be popular. It sounds crazy just compared to where we were a few weeks ago, but the over-under is 50 on this game. I think that might be the highest of the slate. What do you think?
I find that really interesting because if you're taking this, you're taking the Bears side. I can't see any Falcon putting up amazing numbers. I don't know. I look at Kyle Pitts and I'm like, oh yeah, 2 for 8. I look at Cordero Patterson, who was benched last week. I look at it. It's also a 3-headed running back core now. So it's now because the other 2 guys have actually gotten more work. Caleb and Algier. So I'm like, do I want Drake London? Do I want Mariota? I don't think I want anybody on that side, but I would take all the fields. I would take all the fields I could, right? Like, that guy is trying to make a name for himself. He's on a hot streak. You would take all the fields, take some pop shots at maybe Cole Kmet because he is on fire too, chase the points a little bit. But that's it. I don't feel comfortable with any of the other guys. I don't think Darnell Mooney gets a 2-touchdown game, right? And if, Equinus St. Brown does something, do you think he puts up Darius Slayton numbers? I don't know. I don't think any of these guys do. I think it's Fields and Cole Kmet. And we're done.
I agree with you there because the underdog has actually a little less. It's not as deep a lineup as the other like a DraftKings slate. So you don't we're not interested in Brown in a 6-man lineup. The Battle Royale is too shallow for a guy like Brown. I don't even have Claypool as a guy that I'm listed. I don't even have the viable option just because, we're looking. It's a shallow lineup. We're looking for guys with a lead option. And as Andrew is going to point out here, I was just about to talk about Kyle Pitts as well. The man is number 1 in air yards. And if you don't know that, just like the yards with your targets that you've gotten. So he's getting targeted. Man, it's Marcus Mariota. It's not Kyle Pitts. I'm so confident in that. So he just has that potential. If Marcus Mariota could, put that pass a foot to the left, you know what I mean? We're going to see some big games from Kyle Pitts. I do have him. He's someone I just want in that last round of the underdog draft. I'm not slamming him there, but I want a couple of Kyle Pitts shares just because I think he does have some high-end outcome. And
he's tight end 5 right now for the thing. So there is some value to get. He's not like Mark Andrews, who's tight end 1, with an injury, off and on right now. Tight end 5, I think you could take pop shots at Kyle Pitts. But I think I'm not targeting this game. I'm not going to sit there and say, this is the game I think that's going to set fantasy ablaze, right? It's a lot. It's a lot to ask for.
Yeah, it is, and you know what, I've been kind of tracking the quarterback and tight end position. And, I'm going to kind of talk a little bit more about that here in shortly. But every single matchup except for last week, the person's had a top 3 tight end score. The Battle Royale winner, the big winner, a top 3 tight end in their lineup for that particular week. Last week it was top, or 2 weeks ago it was top 5. I believe Cole Kmet, maybe it was top 5. But yeah, once in the last couple weeks it was top 5. But mostly you're getting top 3 tight ends. So you need a tight end who's going to get that high potential outcome. So Kyle Pitts is somebody I like there. Darnell Mooney is somebody else I think you can take a shot on maybe in the 6th round if you have Justin Fields, because he's been playing a little bit better lately. And if we get any sort of step forward with Justin Fields as a passer, I think we're going to see some big games for those guys down the stretch. The next one I had, man, this is wild. This is just a crazy week. The next game I had up here is Giants versus Lions. Whew, these are just not names you'd associate with high-scoring football, but here we are.
I would take this one. This is a game I would probably consider.
Absolutely. More. Lions are 32nd in points given up to the quarterback. They're dead last. Lions 26th in points given up to wide receivers. It's a good matchup. This is Dan. I'm not Daniel Jones. He does have one top 3 quarterback performance this year, but man, he's someone I want to take a couple shots on. He's not someone I know it's a juicy matchup, but he's not someone I'm going to get overexposed to just because it is still Daniel Jones. But yeah, the quarterbacks here, there's only 6 quarterbacks drafted in the Battle Royale. So it's going to be tough for me to fit these guys into my lineup, but I'm not saying it's impossible, but I do like the wide receiver matchups a bit more. Amon-Ra St. Brown, obviously. And then I think, Darius Slayton's a guy to throw in that last round as well. Slate, I think he, can be a top 24 wide receiver this week. So there's someone I'm throwing out there as well.
No, I think that's right. And I agree with Andrew here. Like, I would take Pitts over Andrews. I think it's just the right play to do. Too early for me on a guy that's injured. Amon-Ra, I think for PPR, I would love to have him. That guy gets every target. He's been a little shallow at the touchdowns. But I also think that's just kind of the game plan, right? Like, when you have Jamal Williams, who has been punching it in super easily, or DeAndre Swift that can catch the ball and go in, it wouldn't surprise me if Amon-Ra doesn't get a touchdown. And especially, weirdly enough, that defense, the Giants' defense is pretty stout, mostly at the run. So I could see that being kind of tough too. So I would take some Amon-Ra. I would take some Slayton. I don't think I'd take any quarterback here because, as you pointed out, there's only been one quarterback top end week for Daniel Jones, and he had to run 100 yards to do that. He hasn't done that since. He hasn't even come close. So I would probably dodge the quarterbacks on this. I think the wide receivers could be one-offs that I think are nice to have. Right? Yep. I would stack the game after this, honestly. Sorry. I would stack the last game on our list when we get to that, but I think you can argue that having one of these guys like Slayton or Amon-Ra could be like that little difference maker. Because people are going to draft Amon-Ra, but who's drafting Slayton? I don't know. I don't know any people who are.
Darius Slayton, like I said, he's more someone I'm actually targeting more in like a DraftKings style lineup. Like I said, this is a little bit shallow for someone like Darius Slayton, but still someone you can throw a dart throw in that last round. Chiefs versus Chargers here, 49.5 over under total. Mahomes is the quarterback 2 in fantasy this week. It's looking like it's going to be Marquez Valdes-Scantling and Kadarius Toney this week. Juju Smith-Schuster still in concussion protocol. Mecole Hardman on IR. The Chargers wide receivers are a mess. Yeah, this game's a little looking a little less attractive as I'm talking my way through it as it was when I was writing this. But
it's definitely misleading.
Yeah, it looks like a great matchup on paper. I still think we're going to see some points out of this game, though. It's Patrick Mahomes, and the Chiefs' defense is not very good. I think you will see some success on the Justin Herbert side as well.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at MVS or Kadarius Toney, you can look at MVS. I despise MVS. I'll tell you right now, I just despise him. I do. I don't understand the hype for him. I never will. I get he's big, he's fast, but I call him the Kobe Fleeners of the wide receiver. I've always referenced him as that. He is. He's Kobe Fleener, guy who got paid, to play with Hall of Fame quarterbacks. I think if you're interested in those guys, I would just say that get weird and get Noah Gray. At that point, just get weird, get Noah Gray. I think you can get away with Kadarius Toney, but I feel like MVS and Noah Gray are like the same player at this point because
whoa. That is harsh.
But Noah Gray's caught some touchdowns, right? If you're gonna be going around for like MVS, I'll just go grab Noah Gray. I don't know. I don't like any of these guys. I think you could like Mahomes because Mahomes is probably the most efficient guy possible out there. But no, Gray like can just go out there and catch a touchdown for and get 3 catches. It's no different than MVS. Get 3 catches and a touchdown.
Yeah, it's but Travis Kelce, Marcus Valdes-Scantling. Well, I think he's going to have some big games down the stretch. He's just too involved in the offense, so we'll see about that. But yeah, it's definitely a game that's not. I don't even think that's. I think I threw that in there. Yeah, he just said it. Andrew just said it. I was just about to say. I was like, I threw this game in here. I knew it was the Sunday night game. I was just about to say that. I was like, I threw this game in here. It's the Sunday night game. Andrew, that was a good call. I was just thinking that myself as I was talking my way through it because I can't draft Travis Kelce. That's what brought it to me. I was like, wait a minute.
I was like, he's not on the list.
He's not on the list. Go with it. Hey, but I was excited to talk about it. I probably threw it in there because I was excited to talk about my Chiefs. I'd like to throw them in there anytime I can. So I'm still glad we got to talk about it a little bit. It'll be fun for some. I like to play captain on DraftKings, so I'll be definitely playing that on Sunday night this week. But the last one I had up here was Cowboys versus Vikings. Cowboys 31 to the Packers, 29 to Chicago, 26 to Philly. Vikings 26 to Arizona, 30 to the Bills. I think we're going to see some high. The Cowboys defense is salty. They get some pressure on the quarterback, but I think we're going to see a high scoring game here.
This is I think the game to target, right? You have multiple options here. You have possibly the number 1 receiver on both teams finishing this week, and possibly the number 1 tight end finishing from these teams this week, right? Dalton Schultz and TJ Hawkinson put up work for their teams. I can't say the same for the other teams we talked about. I can't say the same for Bears Falcons. I can't say the same for Giants Lions. When Daniel Bellinger was around, I would say that for the Giants, but none of those guys have tight ends I'm fully confident in putting up a touchdown and like 6 catches. But I do have that for both Vikings and the Cowboys. I get it. TJ Hawkins hasn't done it yet because he just got there, but he had 100% catch rate last week. Sorry, 2 weeks ago, and then last week he caught another 6 receptions. He's obviously going into the 2 spot.
Yeah, it is. It'll be tough to get JJ and CD in the same lineup, but if you do enough battle royales, you never know what can happen. I have Dak Prescott and Kirk Cousins as sleeper quarterbacks. Not someone I'm not. There's someone borderline with some of those borderline that top 6 options, so I'm not going to get them in a ton of lineups. But the game's going to be high scoring, so there are a little bit deeper in drafts. CeeDee Lamb, of course, is going to be the target with Dak Prescott, but Dalton Schultz is one of my tight ends to target this week as well. So I really like that. TJ Hawkinson, like we said, 19 targets in the last couple of weeks. Not touching any other.
Tony Pollard RB7.
I said Tony Pollard. I meant TJ Hawkinson got 19.
No, I meant to say Tony Pollard's RB7 though. He's super low for. I don't know. I would take him. No, I think he's actually further than that.
Tony Pollard's low. I have him we're gonna get to some RB running back values here, and he's the first guy on my list. I know Ezekiel Elliott's coming back this week, but I'm taking advantage of that. Yeah, he's top 12 running back these last couple of weeks, and he's a great pick deeper in drafts. Yeah, absolutely, like that a lot. With that, we'll dive into some quarter. So how I structure the show, just based on stuff I've noticed is I like to go over specifically quarterbacks and tight end plays because I've talked to people, every single battle royale winner this year has had a top 3 quarterback from that week in their lineup. So there's only a finite amount of guys with that in their range of outcomes. So I like to cover the guys that I believe have that in their range of outcomes for the week. Tight ends, same deal. Until just a couple weeks ago, it was a top 3 tight end every single week, but there was a couple weeks ago where it was a top 5 tight end. So we are looking for guys with high range of outcomes here. In my first tier of players here for the quarterback position, I have Justin Fields, Jalen Hurts, and Josh Allen. Josh Allen is playing in a dome this weekend, or he's playing in Detroit. I'm sorry, and that is going to be no more snow for Josh Allen. I think you can fire him up in lineups.
I don't disagree with those. I think where they're being drafted is a little early for me, though. I think Justin Fields is a first rounder. Josh Allen, I think, is a first rounder on the flip right now in battle royales. I think Jalen Hurts is going double their ADP, so I think you get away Jalen Hurts, and he's good for 1 rushing touchdown a week, so that's usually some value there. I think the rushing upside on Jalen is really low, though. he hasn't had those 100-yard rushing games like Justin Fields or Josh Allen has done. He's not doing that. I think if you're going to go this early, it's Fields and that's it. Maybe Allen, but could you see this game being a little bit low scoring with them having to travel to Detroit, having to then play against a team that is pretty strong on defense at times, and that will run the ball, right? Like, look, if you look at the Dolphins last week that went against the Browns, that was a low scoring game overall, right? And that game ended kind of quick. So it wouldn't surprise me if Josh Allen just has like we're up a couple of scores, and then the Browns give up and just try running the ball a ton and just call it a day.
Yeah, and one thing to consider is that the Battle Royale is open all week long. So there was somebody who got Josh Allen in the 3rd round just a couple days ago. So when you're drafting Josh Allen and the quarterback in the 1st round coming up as the weekend gets here, you're not getting a lot of leverage on that. There's somebody who got him 2 or 3 rounds earlier in the week when they thought we were going to be playing in 3 feet of snow. So just to consider that, Josh Allen, that's why I'm probably not going to be drafting him a lot this weekend. I'm just going to be hoping that he does not have a big-time game this weekend, and hopefully he wasn't a steal for somebody earlier in the week. But, yeah, Jalen Hurts still quarterback 1 in 7 and 9 games this year. You got some solid stacking options with these guys. Another thing I like to point out each week is that, most of the winners have a single stack. There's some guys, there's some bringbacks brung in there, but, the double stack isn't an option in the Battle Royale unless it's, you can slide in Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, I suppose, with Tua if you can do it. That's hard. That's impossible to do in most Battle Royales, just with how high those guys are. But most of the time, the double stack just isn't viable, just because you're looking for really high end outcomes, and is just being so shallow. It's tough for 2 guys on the same team to break out like that. You know what I mean?
No, definitely. Unless you're expecting like a ridiculous scoring game, and I think we do have this one though this week. I think there is that game, which is Cowboys Vikings. I know that Dak Prescott's picked in the last round. Like, I would be on for me, it's either Justin Fields or Dak, and that's it. Where they're going at, based on their game situation, based on the weapons that are alive right now. I mean, as much as I want to think Jalen Hurts will do well, and I think he will, losing Goddard's huge. Yeah, losing Goddard's way bigger than I think people, and then having an injured AJ Brown, a guy that's prone to a little bit of mistakes, is also like a problem. So I don't know. It's interesting that I think Jalen Hurts could be that guy up there that's going to finish as a top 3 quarterback, but his value is still just too expensive. I don't know. I think I'd take Dak or even Kirk Cousins. Most likely I'll take Dak though. He slings the ball way more over than I would for most of the quarterbacks in between them. I think Justin Fields is obviously the one, right? He's going against the Lions. He's probably going to run for 300 yards and throw for 6. It's going to be a good time for everybody else.
Yeah, it's a juicy matchup for Justin Fields this weekend. Is he playing the Falcons, right? Falcons?
Yes, he's playing the Falcons. Sorry,
Falcons,
the Lions.
Yeah.
That's last week.
Yeah,
he's playing the Falcons. It's
basically two great matchups in a row. But I have in my next tier here, I had Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott, Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, we know what he can do. It hasn't happened in the last few weeks, but he can be, just with his depressed data, he's going 9.1. That's pretty good value, especially just for his upside. The quarterback can win you weeks in this Battle Royale just with the shallower format. Dak Prescott, like you said, that's a great. He's been quarterback 4 and 7 over the last 2 weeks. It has some nice stacking options with CeeDee Lamb, and Dalton Schultz is one of those tight ends I'm going to highlight with those high range of outcomes this week. And Joe Burrow, Higgins, and Boyd, you know where those targets are going to go. And Pittsburgh's 26th in fantasy points given up to quarterback.
Yeah. And I think that's definitely a fine pickup too. I just don't want a game that ends quick. But you also, I think the Steelers played the Bengals earlier and kind of crapped all over Joe Burrow.
Yeah, no, the Steelers beat up Joe Burrow last time. So I've heard a lot of people want that. I just don't think it's going to happen twice in a row. I know people are on the Pittsburgh defense this week and cash lineups and stuff, but I just don't think it's going to happen twice in a row.
I mean, I feel more comfortable taking like Derek Carr. I think it's weird, but I feel comfortable like in that realm, I guess, because he's going to throw the ball to Devontae Adams a ton, and Devontae Adams has big games. But I just think it's interesting. Like I feel like there's a lot less quarterbacks that are gonna be on the upside based on matchups, based on teams they're facing. A lot of run heavy teams right now kill a lot of games. I've been in games where we watch them. They'll end their game and another team barely gets to the fourth quarter because they're running the ball so much. So it is something to be wary about.
Yep, absolutely. The last two I just had here, I'm someone, if you're doing a lot of drafts, maybe consider Kirk Cousins and Daniel Jones. It's just not in there. Like Andrew asked a question here. Are you going to get contrarian with Russ at all? If this is DraftKings, yeah, I'm throwing Russ in some lineups this weekend, but I just think the underdog is just too shallow. You're only getting 6 quarterbacks drafted. And I just don't think Russell, I think Russell, I know the Raiders do stink. That's also true, Andrew. But, it's just not in Russell Wilson's range of outcomes, I think, to be a top 3 quarterback. I think he can have a nice week. I think he's a good DraftKings play. But I just don't put him in this Battle Royale slate. And Andrew, I'm not smart enough to figure. Like I've been asking. I need to remember how to do live drafts on a stream. I'm not a tech savvy guy. This is me doing a lot right now, just running this basic show. So, what I want to get a live draft on here though. So maybe we will do that here next week or in the near future. It is super fun to do live drafts on the show. I like them a lot.
I do like Andrew's point, though. I took in a few Suttons, actually. I was like, if I'm going to grab anyone to be contrarian, I want the guy that's the last person on this team from the line, I was taking some Sutton. I was taking some Terry McLaurin, a lot of these upside matchups. I think I like that. I may not take Russ, but I'll take Sutton.
Sutton's a good play. I have him, I do a DraftKings thread every week on Twitter, and I had Courtland Sutton as a big play. The Raiders have been bad. That's where Russell Wilson's only really good performance of the season came. So, if you're doing some DraftKings this week, get yourself a Courtland Sutton, Russell Wilson stack. I think that's actually a good play. For the tight ends here, this is another one. Like I said, we're looking for a high range of outcomes. When you're doing Battle Royale, there's shallow lineups, so that tight end position is a lot more important. The quarterback position is a lot more important because it's making up a lot more percentage of your points as opposed to a DraftKings style lineup where you have 9 people, or in it or so, or 9 or 10. So, it doesn't make up a higher percentage of your points. So you want to focus on these positions. And a tier by himself, although he's not healthy, I have Mark Andrews. He has a high ADP, so it's not someone I've been slamming down, but I think you do need to get some Mark Andrews just with the chance that he plays. I have just a couple shares this weekend. I have him as limited in practice a couple days before this, and I know he was absent in the media portion today, but I think he got out there eventually. So, I don't think any of us know exactly if he plans on playing this weekend or not. But is that just someone that you'd be completely out on at his ADP, or do you think he's worth the risk?
I think I'm out. If I can get Justin Fields, who I think is going to have the nuts of the week, I'd rather have that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even there, Andrew said it. And even at the end of the day, it's probably going to be limited snaps. He gets re-aggravated. He got injured, got another injury, and then now he's coming back. So I would have to take any of the other guys around him because I don't think I need to win tight end this week.
Okay, yeah, that's all. And I have been considering him in that last round. I just haven't been able to pull the trigger yet. There's some other guys I've liked. They're a bit more. Komet, just with that questionable tag, is sitting right there in that usually that 5th, 6th round range when I was doing drafts. Also this morning, in tier 2 and by himself, I have T.J. Hawkinson. I keep saying 19 targets in the last 2 games. He's a big part of the offense. He looks like he could be the second target in that offense more weeks than not.
I think he is.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think Adam Thielen will have his weeks here and there, but I think, TJ Hawkinson's going to be consistently that second option.
I think his red zone targets will be questionable for TJ Hawkinson. So I love Hawk in real life. I love Hawk in real leagues. For this, probably a little bit less. I think he's probably, when you look at the team though, he's probably the 4th option in the red zone, right? You're looking at Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, then TJ Hawkinson. So that kind of scares me a little bit on him, but I think he's a strong value if you're just looking for a guy that's going to get opportunities. Mm-hmm. And I think that's good on its own.
Yeah, and most tight ends we're chasing touchdowns anyway, so I feel like that's what we're doing with Hawkinson here in a high-scoring matchup. We're hoping he gets one of those touchdowns. I have Dalton Schultz and Cole Kmet not too far behind him. Minnesota is 28th in fantasy points given up to or 23rd in fantasy points given up to tight ends. My apologies. 15. And Dalton Schultz has 15 targets in the last 2 games. Cole Kmet is the tight end, 1 over the last 2 weeks, and has 5 touchdowns in his last 3 games.
This is insane. If I had to target tight end, and actually Andrew just brought it up, I'd probably take Tyler Higbee. I think Higbee's where it's at. The team is efficient enough to eat down the field enough. There's no Cooper Kupp. There is no run game. It's just Allen Robinson in the red zone. He's tied for number 1 with red zone targets. They lost the number 8 guy in red zone targets in Cooper Kupp. So it's going to be Allen Robinson and probably Tyler Higbee or Van Jefferson, as we've seen a few weeks in the last year. But it's a bump up. It's a bump up at a chance at red zone. Like you said, we're chasing touchdowns. And Tyler Higbee has the floor. So he would probably be a guy to take over TJ Hawkinson. And funny enough, David Njoku is playing this week. Njoku hasn't really done much on the touchdown side, but he was ridiculously efficient when he was on the field. And I think he's a guy I would probably end up targeting. He could be a situation where they think, he's just a decoy, but this is a team that's losing, so there's really no decoy anyways. They probably just think he's healthy enough to play. So I'd probably target David Njoku against a Bills team.
That's not a bad one. I didn't have him written down, but that's a good sleeper one. Just like Andrew's getting ahead of me here. This is another big underdog, man. Like I said, he's going to be coming out with some underdog content tomorrow, so definitely be on the lookout for that. He's yes. In my last tier here, I do have Tyler Higbee, and I have Pat Freiermuth as some potential targets. Pat Freiermuth has 7+ targets in 6 of 8 games this year. Tyler Higbee, 8 catches with 73 yards last week. And right alongside those guys, I also have Kyle Pitts. I just feel like, this is the guy not many people are drafting, but, those big weeks there's going to be 1 or 2 down the stretch here. So I'm willing to take a gamble in some of these drafts. All right. I worry, Njoku ends up marking. Yeah, same thing. That's my hesitancy as well, just with David Njoku. I don't know if he comes back with it. Yeah,
but I would rather take a chance on a guy like that, at the end of my final pick on a few teams than Mark Andrews in the beginning.
That makes sense. I agree with that. With that, we'll jump into just finish up here with some running back and wide receiver values. I just close up, just some of my favorite running backs that are going maybe a little bit too late. Dameon Pierce, 20+ opportunities, but just in every game since week 3, but just 1 touchdown in the last 5 weeks. What do you think about his chances this week?
I'm not going for it. I think it's cute. It's nice. He's a great player, just not great for fantasy because he doesn't get the red zone a lot. He is going against a team that is pretty stout at the front line, right? You got the Washington Commanders that have 4 first-rounders on the front lines. It's a tough one. We'll see. I think Dameon Pierce could do something. I just don't know if it leads to end zone. And I just don't trust Davis Mills. I just don't. He hasn't been good, and that sucks. So I wouldn't. I think I would rather grab the options after him than him himself.
Oh yes, I don't have too much. I know the Commanders do have a solid up front, but yes, I think they are a little susceptible still. But yeah, I just chasing target, just opportunity there more than anything. Just hoping they get a drive or 2 where Dameon Pierce could get in the end zone. We'll see. We talked about Tony Pollard, 29.7. He's going to big discount this week with Zeke coming back, but I think there's
Tony Pollard's the RB after Dameon Pierce, and Tony Pollard gets the touchdown. Tony Pollard gets the receptions. I'd rather grab the guy after him, which is David Montgomery, who has the job to himself against the Falcons. Give me David Montgomery.
All right, David Montgomery this week is a value pick for you. That's a good one. I was just saying yesterday on Twitter, I was just like, man, all this analysis that we did all offseason just to lead us to David Montgomery playoff season with all these injuries again. Gosh darn it.
I mean, we laugh about it, but isn't that the same story the last 2 to 3 years? David Montgomery's been in the league. We always stray away from. He's the RB dead zone of Devin Singletary.
Melvin Gordon.
Everyone wants to go away from him. Everyone wants to switch. Everyone wants the new guy to come in. It's like, well, guess what, buddy? You're gonna get 240 touches at David Montgomery by end of season. That's what you're gonna get, and it's gonna be good. He's been fantasy relevant.
Don't sleep on Brian Robinson, Texas State. Yeah, I don't know why y'all insist on getting Brian Robinson all these it's such an inspirational story, but I just do not think he's that much better than Antonio Gibson. Again, 2+ touchdowns. Okay, that's dangerous. I would not want to stake too many with only like 10 running backs being drafted at most in most of these Battle Royale drafts. I am not going to be getting a lot of Brian Robinson. DraftKings, yes, that's more of a play for me in that scenario. I have Cordarrelle Patterson as my last RB up here. He was RB7 2 weeks ago upon his return with less than a 40% snap share, and Chicago has been awful against running backs this year, 28th in fantasy points per game given up to the running back.
That's a tough one. I have a question for you really quick. Would you rather have Cordarrelle Patterson or Deontay Foreman this week?
Oh man, I'd rather have Patterson just because the matchup. I think.
Would you rather have Dameon Pierce or Deontay Foreman? You got to remember, Deontay Foreman gets the same amount of touches as Dameon Pierce. The only difference is one guy falls into the end zone, one doesn't. Would you have Deontay Foreman or Dameon Pierce?
I have Dameon Pierce ranked higher, but you're making me think about it.
Like it's because touchdowns are worth so much for guys that don't catch passes.
That's true. That's true.
So bad.
I just
noticed that Deontay Foreman's at the bottom. Like he's at the bottom. He's after Brian Robinson bottom.
Yeah. I was going to skip. You know what? All right, fine. Well, we'll talk. I actually had Deontay Foreman written down as a 4th value pick. I was going to skip over. You know what? We're going to talk about it though. He does have a 20 and a 30-point performance in these last 2 weeks, and the Baltimore is just an average defense. All right, so you know what? He does have a 35.3 ADP here. I do have him written down. You're right. It's a good value pick. I'm throwing him. Yeah, the running back position is something that you can see. This is what I'm talking about. This is why I think tight ends and quarterbacks are so important in this, because you can find value at the running back and wide receiver position throughout this draft. But I don't know. We'll see here. I really like, Deontay Foreman, Cordarrelle Patterson, Tony Pollard, Dameon Pierce. Those are my value picks there. Big fans there. But
there's so much value in these guys. I mean, I don't know. Especially because most people are only going to be drafting one running back anyways. It's tough.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's one, like I said, too. So like between 9-10 players drafted. How do you feel about Jonathan Taylor? I think it's good. I'm drafting him just because I think, he does have one of those high-end outcomes that we're looking just to nail every single pick in a Battle Royale just with those limited picks. Yes, Jonathan Taylor does have a lot of risk this week. I don't think he's, I'm worried about him in lineups, where I'm just setting him in as in a league or like a standard league. But we're looking for high end outcomes. We're taking some risk in these GPP formats. I don't hate Jonathan Taylor here.
I don't hate him either. I think, like I said, this is the only reason I'm a little afraid of this particular game is these teams are banged up, right? Especially the Eagles coming out of last week. I could see this game ending quick. Right, you can see the problem with anybody that plays against the Colts is that they do nothing but screen passes. They do nothing but short, flats, curls, meshes, drags, etc., and then run the ball. So the games end really fast, and I feel like there's no opportunity for overtimes. There's no opportunity for high-scoring games. So I'm always a little concerned. I think he can play JT. He did well last week. And I think with the new coaching, they're going to run that ball 30 times. But it's one of those, does he get the end zone? Are those 30 touches efficient? I think they are. I mean, if Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson could kind of wear them down, I couldn't see why JT couldn't.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I don't worry. Like, defensive matchups are always a little bit like there's certainly there's something to be had in looking at the defensive matchup. It's always a little bit overrated in my opinion. Like I feel like you see offensive players break out all the time against these tough defenses, particularly at the quarterback. But yeah, if it's still a tough matchup, so that weighs on me a little bit. But I still think Jonathan Taylor is still worth his ADP. We'll finish up here with some wide receivers.
I would take Taylor on his team versus Pittman and Campbell against that secondary.
Oh, yeah.
It's easier to run against them than it is to throw against them.
Yeah, and Pittman, and who knows who's going to get out in this offense. Paris Campbell has been a wide receiver 1 the last 3 weeks he's been healthy with Matt Ryan. That's unbelievable. And then nothing with Sam Ellinger. And Michael Pittman, yeah, he's just been. I just don't think he's the wide receiver one that people were hoping he would be. I think he's more than just that kind of settled into that wide receiver 2 range. But yes, I think having Matt Ryan back is way better for this offense. Yes, it's been as hard as it is to believe. I think yes, I'm hoping that we see the Jonathan Taylor that we saw last year. I think we can see 2 games in a row where because we just saw last year how good Jonathan Taylor was. And I'm just leaning on the talent here. I don't have, the stats of this season have not been pretty. I don't have even any underlying Jonathan Taylor metrics. All these stats, a lot of them I get from Player Profiler. So I'd like to thank the Podfather, Matt Kelly, Player Profiler, for doing a great job and everything. So that's where I get a lot of these. But yeah, there's no even underlying stats to point to if that Jonathan Taylor is, playing good or anything like that.
I would point to the fact that the Commanders just won by running the ball, right? I would point to that's how you're going to beat this Eagles team. I think the Colts know that's hey, we can't beat them with receivers. We can't beat them with quarterback play. We only have a shot by running this ball down the throat. And you could argue that that's been a strategy for a lot of teams this year, right? The Bears, the Falcons, the Browns. Like, it's not unviable. So it wouldn't surprise me. He doesn't have to run the ball well. He just has to run the ball and get fantasy points.
Yeah, and stick to what you're good at. We saw Carson Wentz last year when he threw the ball 12 times. They were just trying to get anything they could do to get the ball out of his hands, to get it in Jonathan Taylor's hands. You could see a little bit of that down the stretch. Matt Ryan has been he's better for these fantasy weapons. He's been a disaster this year. I had his turnover stats a couple weeks ago. It was ridiculous how many turnovers he has between interceptions and fumbles.
He was 9 for 9, I think. 9 ITDs, 9 interceptions.
Yeah, and then he has a ton of fumbles this year too. So it's been a tough year for Matt Ryan. But yeah, we'll finish up with wide receiver values here. I have 4 names up here. I'll just list them off. You can tell me what you think. So first up, I have Devontae Smith. We talked about Dallas Goedert getting out. ADP 32.8. He's been disappointing the last few weeks. He has Indy coming up here. I think there could be an opportunity in this offense with Dallas Goedert out. Darnell Mooney, ADP 35.2. Justin Fields, he's improving a little bit as a passer. We're seeing more scoring opportunities. I think you could see, and the Falcons have been awful against wide receivers this year. Terry McLaurin, ADP 22.9, 200-yard receiving games in these last 2 games. It's clear, Taylor Heineke is a lot better for this offense. The fantasy players in this offense, and Amari Cooper. It is crazy the home and away splits, but this guy has 4 top 20 games this year. He's not playing at home this week either, but he does have 4 20-point games this season, and I'm hoping that it's just I refuse to believe that this man cannot score points on the road. So I do have him as a value still at 32.8.
No, I agree with you on that one. I think he's done it, right? He's done it.
Yeah, and these guys, like I said, those are just some value guys. I think there's just a lot of value to be had at wide receiver, and especially running back. I think there's a lot of value to be had later on in the draft. Especially you're getting a quarterback, you can get a running back 1 in the rankings. With only 10 or 12 running backs being drafted, wide receiver gets a little bit deeper. But like I said, there's some nice names late in the draft. We will close with answering Andrew's last question here. How do we feel about Olave this week with Winston being the starter? Better or worse than 15 points in BR? What do you think?
I think he gets less than 15 because it's half PPR.
Yeah. I don't. He's not someone. I'm a little less excited than I was a couple weeks ago. But it's just Jameis Winston. It's been up and down year for both of these guys. They go through hot streaks. Andy Dalton, just a couple weeks ago, people were like, well, why would we go back to Jameis Winston? So I want to see it another week. I want to see him, get a little comfortable with Jameis Winston. It's just one of those. Yeah, I'm taking him in a couple drafts because Olave, like a lot of rookie wide receivers in a bad offense, he has that boom potential, but a lot of bust weeks as well. So he's someone I'm not slamming the pick in every single draft, but someone I think if you're doing a good amount of drafts, you want some exposure to. Last question. And this is a week we can trust Gabriel Davis. Now that he is playing in Detroit, I think, yes, this is someone I'm going to be drafting at his ADP. I didn't write him. I don't have him in front of me because I was completely avoiding him because I when I was doing these notes, I thought that it was going to be a snow game and I wasn't interested. But I would imagine that he's probably floating in that 3rd or 4th round ADP.
He's wide receiver 9 right now.
Wide receiver 9. Oh, that's hot. What What you know that what pick is that? Probably like in the second or third round.
I think the second or third.
That's a little high.
My opinion on Gabriel Davis is usually not favorable, but I think if you're trying to take a slate down, you should have some teams with them.
Right? Yeah, like, exactly. That's
and
my opinion.
Not as a bring back, but as a one-off. Like if I'm bringing in the house on Vikings, Cowboys, and then I just throw in some Gabe Davis.
Yeah, 24 is not that bad. I draft Gabe Davis. Though. Yeah, I mean that I don't hate. Like I said, yeah, that's somebody I don't like. It's not super safe, but we're not playing super safe in these formats in the GPP format. So I don't mind getting some exposure just in that case that he does catch 3 passes. I don't even think it's likely that he has a big game this week, but just in that range, he has the a top 5 wide receiver just in his range of outcomes. So I think you got to take him.
Yeah, he's either 0 or 17. It's one of the two. It's 0 or 17, and I think that's the best way to play him. I think if you're playing, because most of the guys that play Battle Royales are maxing out or having a good chunk of teams. If he's not on any teams, I would be surprised.
Yeah, agreed. But all right, hey, with that, we're finishing up. Davis, what are some stuff you got coming out? What are you working on coming up?
Right now, I'm just doing trade articles for fantasy6pet.net. That's where I mostly do during regular season. But most of my good content, my main stuff, I would say, is for the Underdog items are going to be during off season. So I will start doing more content back into summer, back into from draft day till actually I do articles pre-draft all the way to draft. So if you want to catch my stuff for best ball, catch you there. Right now, my advance rates are about 36%. So I know what I'm doing for the most part.
I love it. Hey, yes, you. I love the content that you're putting out. Looking forward to chatting with you with all the other Underdog guys in our little Twitter chat. Andrew just pointed out that Juju is out. That's kind of what I anticipated just with the concussion. Like protocol the way it is now, I think you're going to see guys more than not miss that second week. And it was scary. Yeah, you saw him kind of do that hand frozen, kind of similar to Tua, his hands locked up in front of him. So that was scary. So hope he gets better right now. I did see Andrew also. He's bragging now. He's 53rd in the Battle Royale.
Wow.
So I saw him post that. Andrew, before we sign off here, where do you get these Underdog leaderboards? I can't find it. Where do you get these? You could tell me too.
It's Underdog actually posts them every week.
Oh, I just gotta go to their Twitter
thing. It's their pin tweet. It'll be the top 500. I'm close. I have a couple of teams that are right under the 500 mark, and I'm very annoyed because it's this far away every single time. It's like 5 points, 10 points short of being top 500. I have a couple of those.
Okay, all right. I'll have to check that out. I'll see here. Like I said, I have my oh my goodness, I've Komet on that team too. I haven't even looked at it in the last couple weeks. I just remembered I have Komet on the team too. But I have Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley, and Christian McCaffrey. So I'm just hoping that those running backs are just going to have some killer playoff weeks here. But we'll see what happens, guys. It was great talking to you. You're doing good luck on this weekend on your Battle Royale. We'll be back next Friday with some Underdog stuff. And, SGPN puts out I know because I edit it. We put out multiple articles every single day. And check back SGPN daily for more fantasy football content. Have a great week, everybody. Good luck.